You still believe that the most extreme and dangerous sports in the world are American football, with its flashy collisions, rugby without pads, or brutal mixed martial arts inside a Western cage. In the West, we have been sold the idea that sports intensity requires multi-million-dollar stadiums, titanium helmets, and pampered athletes with astronomical contracts. But historical reality is a direct slap to that modern fragility. In ancient China, sports were not born as simple Sunday entertainment, but as a ruthless military conditioning system, designed to forge indestructible warriors and survive on the battlefield. Absolutely no modern foam protection compares to the physical brutality, lethal discipline, and absolute pain that these millennial practices heavily demanded from their participants. You surely associate Chinese physical culture with peaceful images of elderly people practicing slow Tai Chi movements at dawn in a quiet city park. However, strictly hidden behind that meditative facade lies a truly bloody legacy of extreme body disciplines that completely defy the absolute limits of current human biomechanics. Today, Western sports scientists and physiologists watch horrified and fascinated by the structural tension, joint stress, and explosive power that practitioners of these Asian disciplines must routinely endure. Today, we are going to completely destroy all your prejudices about Eastern athletics and reveal the 12 traditional Chinese sports that would make any modern Olympic athlete cry in sheer agony. Stay until the very end, because number 1 completely defies modern medicine. But before revealing how these brutal ancestral disciplines have successfully forged the most resilient and lethal bodies in human history, make sure to hit the like button on this video right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are truly passionate about discovering the raw truth behind global cultures and understanding how ancient empires built veritable human biological machines. Your support is absolutely vital, so we can continue deeply funding these investigations and bringing you raw analyses that commercial sports television would never show you for being too intense. Turn on the notification bell so your brain doesn't miss our next journey to the extreme limits of the human body. Now let's discover the 12 Chinese sports redefining the word intensity. Number 12. The bloody and original Cuju. FIFA officially recognizes this ancient military game from the Han Dynasty as the true historical grandfather of what we globally know today as soccer. But while modern players fake dramatic fouls by rolling around on perfectly manicured turf, the original Cuju was an exercise in extreme war survival heavily used to keep imperial troops in a constant state of physical lethality. It was aggressively played with a heavy leather ball stuffed with hair and feathers, completely without rules to protect the physical integrity of the opponent, routinely resulting in severely fractured shins, destroyed knees, and severe cranial concussions. It was absolute hand-to-hand combat disguised as a game where defeat often meant total military humiliation. Number 11. The ruthless and destructive Jianzi. At first glance, in Western tourist videos, it looks like a harmless street game completely similar to the casual hacky sack, where people lightly kick a small feather shuttlecock to keep it off the ground. The competitive reality of this extreme sport is a true biomechanical nightmare that heavily demands extreme flexibility and explosive power that routinely destroys cruciate ligaments and tears the hamstrings of unprepared athletes. Competitors routinely perform full backflips, blind scissor kicks 2 meters in the air, and unnatural spinal contortions directly on hard concrete surfaces, landing with all their massive weight on a single fragile joint. It's not a simple park game, it's high-impact Olympic gymnastics executed with martial arts brutality. Number 10. The terrifying and suicidal Duju Piao, or single bamboo drifting. Imagine attempting to deeply maintain extreme balance on a single, incredibly slippery bamboo trunk barely 20 centimeters thick, while navigating the most violent and treacherous rapids of southern China's mighty rivers. Originally utilized as a highly effective military transportation and rapid survival method to cross deep rivers without needing bridges, today it is a competitive sport, requiring a core strength that completely defies the established laws of human gravity. A single millimeter miscalculation, a slight tremor in the legs, or a momentary loss of absolute balance directly throws athletes into deadly turbulent currents that violently drag them toward unforgiving and lethally sharp underwater rocks without mercy. Number 9. The deafening and bone-crushing Da Tuoluo. In the West, playing with a spinning top is a highly harmless childhood memory, involving lightweight wooden toys on a soft school playground. In the extreme Chinese tradition, this aggressive sport consists of perpetually keeping solid steel tops continuously spinning that can weigh up to a beastly 100 kilograms, relentlessly striking them with heavy whips crafted from thick chains of pure iron. The extreme cardiovascular effort and the muscular torsion power strictly required to repeatedly whip this massive block of heavy metal absolutely destroy the shoulder rotator cuffs, and violently fracture the wrists of inexperienced novices. The sound of the whip breaking the sound barrier is terrifying, and a bad bounce literally shatters human shins. Number 8. The lethal and ruthless Shui Jiao. Long before Greco-Roman wrestling was globally popularized or Japanese judo clearly established its color belt systems, Chinese imperial armies heavily forged this highly destructive hand-to-hand combat system, utilizing extremely rigid fabric jackets that brutally cut off circulation and violently tear the opponent's skin through sheer friction. Fighters actively seek to violently project their rival directly against the hard ground, without any protective mat to cushion the massive blow. There are absolutely no complex submissions or aesthetic ground locks that consume precious time. The central biomechanical goal is to heavily utilize the enemy's immense gravitational force and body weight to shatter their ribs or violently fracture their spine upon brutal impact against the compacted earth. Number 7. The exhausting and brutal dragon boat racing. Western television routinely displays this iconic Duanwu Festival event as a deeply picturesque and highly colorful floating cultural parade, beautifully adorned with rhythmic drums and intricately hand-carved wooden dragon heads. In its true high-performance competitive version, it is one of the most sadistic, highly destructive, and deeply painful tests of cardiovascular endurance and extreme lactic acid tolerance that currently exists in the entire elite water sports world. 22 perfectly synchronized rowers are ruthlessly pushed to the absolute limit of total biological collapse, rowing with an explosive cadence so ridiculously high that it is completely common to see athletes pass out, vomit blood, or heavily suffer severe muscle tears mid-stroke on the unforgiving water. Number 6. The dizzying and deeply lacerating daoshu, or traditional broadsword wielding. When you closely observe modern Western fencing competitions, athletes are completely covered from head to toe with impenetrable Kevlar suits, heavy steel mesh masks, and strictly utilized dull blades securely connected to harmless electronic sensors. Dao Shu is a highly competitive Chinese martial arts exhibition that strictly demands aggressively manipulating a heavy and extremely wide metal sword at truly blinding speeds, perfectly executing acrobatic backflips while the razor-sharp lethal blade rapidly passes mere millimeters from the athlete's own fragile neck. The intense inertia generated by the weapon's brutal weight absolutely demands extreme muscular tension to forcefully break the cuts before accidentally amputating a limb, turning it into a deadly dance. Number 5. The bone-crushing Suo Jian, or the lethal and highly feared stone padlock lifting. Immediately forget about your modern commercial CrossFit gyms, heavily equipped with massive bouncing rubber plates and elegant Olympic barbells perfectly calibrated to meticulously protect your soft hands from any possible injury. For many centuries, Chinese martial arts practitioners and elite athletes have heavily utilized massive carved stone blocks, shaped like giant padlocks, weighing between 20 and 40 kilograms of pure dead weight, brutally throwing them high into the air, to then catch them with surgical precision mid-flight. Catching a solid granite block of 40 kilos plummeting in free acceleration deeply requires almost inhuman bone density and tendons of pure steel. A 1-second miscalculation violently fractures your skull. Number 4. The suicidal and deeply dizzying lion dance on high poles, or Meihuaquan. For the deeply uninformed Western eye or the casual tourist, this is simply a highly beautiful and intensely picturesque New Year spectacle, perfectly executed under a heavy, brightly colored fabric costume adorned with festive bells. In the strict professional competitive circuit, 2 perfectly synchronized athletes must masterfully perform full backflips, completely blind turns, and absolutely flawless aerial balances, while completely covered by a suffocating fabric costume that weighs a little over 15 kilos of pure dead weight. The macabre detail is that they heavily execute this brutal gymnastics routine on a highly dangerous network of narrow steel pillars, nearly 3 meters high, entirely without a safety net below. Number 3. The ruthless and devastating Sanda, the highly lethal and incredibly effective Chinese military kickboxing system. While absolutely all other Western full-contact sports strictly prioritize clean striking techniques, or completely forbid violently throwing the opponent directly out of the ring to protect their fragile life, Sanda was heavily designed by the infantry army to incapacitate the enemy rapidly. This intensely aggressive full-contact combat sport not only freely allows delivering highly destructive punches and circular kicks that easily shatter human ribs, but specifically rewards violent takedowns and high-speed leg sweeps, heavily intended to forcefully project the enemy directly off the unprotected elevated combat platform. Competitors are brutally thrown headfirst from a high fighting platform, straight onto rigid ground, without any mercy whatsoever. Number 2. The terrifying dakyang, or the highly brutal competitive mastery of the Great Spear. While the modern Western javelin throw is strictly just about seeing which Olympic athlete can throw an aerodynamic fiberglass stick slightly further in a massive, completely empty open field, dakyang is a direct and highly terrifying military confrontation. Elite athletes heavily utilize traditional spears meticulously constructed of incredibly long and massive solid ash wood, often vastly exceeding 3.5 meters in total length. In a fierce duel of rapid thrusts, abrupt stops, and violent redirections requiring truly superhuman core strength, the weapon is so ridiculously heavy that structural vibrations generated when violently clashing against the opponent's spear can literally shatter hand bones in absolute seconds. Number 1. The deeply disturbing and highly incomprehensible iron shirt qigong. This is definitely not a traditional Olympic sport, carefully designed to see which elite athlete runs the fastest on the track or jumps the highest in the soft sand. It is the ultimate extreme survival competition of physical conditioning, to see exactly who can endure the most horrifying human physical punishment possible. Dedicated athletes heavily train for entire decades of their lives, deeply breaking their own nervous systems and repeatedly microfracturing their skeletal structure to successfully calcify an impenetrable bone armor completely, capable of resisting truly fatal blunt impacts. In massive exhibitions, expert practitioners absorb brutal hits from heavy steel sledgehammers directly to the skull and extremely critical anatomical zones, unflinchingly. 12 truly millennial sports disciplines that highly demonstrate to you visually and irrefutably that the modern Western concept of extreme physical intensity is simply a highly harmless child's game compared to the extreme survival conditioning of the deeply martial ancient world. These highly demanding practices did not seek the ephemeral fame of social networks, juicy corporate sponsorships from commercial energy drink brands, or the highly superficial approval of casual spectators. They strictly sought absolute military survival, flawless biomechanical perfection, and the deep development of human bodies literally designed for ruthless warfare and unbreakable superhuman resistance. If these historical revelations have completely blown your mind, actively smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and urgently share this critical video.